Quran chapter 56, Surah Al-Waqi'ah by Sayyid Qutb. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. When the event comes to pass, none can deny its happening. It will abase and exalt. When the earth is shaken with a violent quake, and the mountains are crumbled to dust, scattered far and wide, and you shall be divided into three groups. Then, as for those on the right, how fortunate are those on the right, and those on the left, how miserable are those on the left. And the foremost shall be the foremost, they are the ones brought near, in gardens of delight, a multitude from the first generations, and a few from the later generations. They will recline on couches adorned with gold, facing one another in bliss. Ever youthful servants shall circle around them with cups and jugs, and a drink from a flowing spring, from which they shall suffer no headache nor intoxication, and fruits of their choice, and the meat of birds that they desire, and companions with eyes like hidden pearls, a reward for what they used to do. They will hear no idle talk nor any falsehood, only the words, peace, peace. And those on the right? How blessed are those on the right, in the midst of thornless lote trees and layered banana trees and extended shade and ever-flowing water and abundant fruits never ending nor forbidden and raised couches of ease. Indeed, we have created them anew and made them virgins, loving and of equal age. For the companions on the right, a multitude from the first generations and a multitude from the later generations. But those on the left, how wretched are those on the left, in scorching wind and boiling water, and the shadow of black smoke, neither cool nor soothing. For indeed they had lived a life of luxury before this, persisting in great sin. And they used to say, when we have died and become dust and bones, shall we indeed be raised up again, and our forefathers too? Say, indeed the former and the latter shall all be gathered for an appointed time on a known day. Then you, O misguided deniers, will surely eat from the tree of Zaqqum, and fill your bellies with it, and drink on top of it boiling water, drinking like thirsty camels. This will be their hospitality on the day of judgment. We have created you. Will you not then believe? Have you considered what you emit? Is it you who create it, or are we the creator? We have decreed death among you, and we are not to be outrun, in replacing you with others like yourselves, and recreating you in forms unknown to you. And you have surely known the first creation. Will you not then take heed? Have you considered what you sow? Is it you who cause it to grow, or are we the one who makes it grow? If we willed, we could surely reduce it to rubble, and you would remain speechless, saying, indeed we are burdened with debt. Nay, but we are deprived. Have you considered the water you drink? Is it you who send it down from the clouds, or are we the one who sends it down? If we willed, we could make it bitter. Will you not then give thanks? Have you considered the fire you kindle? Is it you who grow its trees, or are we the one who causes them to grow? We have made it a reminder and a provision for those who journey. So glorify the name of your sustainer, the most great. Nay, I swear by the positions of the stars, and indeed it is a mighty oath if you but knew. Verily this is a noble Qur'an. In a well-guarded book, none shall touch it but the purified, a revelation from the sustainer of all worlds. Is it this discourse that you are disdainful of, and in return for your sustenance do you deny it? Then why is it that when the soul reaches the throat while you are watching, and we are nearer to it than you, though you do not see, then why, if you are not to be judged, do you not bring it back if you are truthful? But if he is among those brought near, then for him is ease and comfort, and a garden of bliss. And if he is among the companions of the right, then peace be upon you, O companions of the right. But if he is among the deniers, the astray, then his welcome will be boiling water and burning in hellfire. Indeed, this is the certain truth. So glorify the name of your sustainer, the most great. Al-Waqi'ah, the title of the surah, encapsulates both its theme and its profound message. The central issue this Meccan surah addresses is the reality of resurrection. In response to the doubts of those who deny it, the polytheists who reject God and the truth of the Qur'an, mocking, when we have died and become dust and bones, shall we indeed be raised again, and our forefathers too? Thus the surah opens with a vivid description of the day of resurrection. its reality so decisive, its certainty leaving no room for denial. When the event befalls, none can deny its occurrence. The surah then portrays the overwhelming scenes of that day, where the destinies of humankind are altered and the very fabric of the earth is transformed in the face of this cosmic upheaval. As the surah declares, it will abase and exalt, when the earth is shaken with a violent quake and the mountains are crumbled to dust, scattered far and wide. In this moment of utter chaos, humanity is divided into three distinct groups. The surah proceeds to elaborate on the fates of these three groups, the foremost, the people of the right hand, and the people of the left hand. It details with unparalleled precision the bliss awaiting the former and the torment awaiting the latter, in such a way that it strikes the soul with the certainty that these events are not mere conjectures, but realities laid bare before the inner eye. The disbelievers who once scoffed at these warnings will now witness their fate, just as the believers shall witness theirs. And it will be said of the former, after describing their painful punishment, indeed they had lived before in luxury, and they persisted in the great sin. And they used to say, when we have died and become dust and bones, shall we indeed be raised again, and our forefathers too? Here the torment becomes the present reality, while the worldly life is reduced to a distant past, remembered only with disdain and reproach for their stubborn denial. With this, the first part of the surah concludes, and a new section begins, broadening the scope to encompass the entire creed. It seeks to confirm the truth of the resurrection, the central theme of the surah, by drawing upon powerful, familiar imagery from the observable world, something within the grasp of every human being's experience, regardless of their environment or knowledge. The surah presents the origin of human life, created from a humble drop of fluid. It then points to death and the rise of others in their place as an argument for the ease with which the resurrection will occur, a process no different in essence from the first creation they already know so well. It then shifts to the image of tilling and planting, which is a metaphor for life's creation under the divine hand of God's power. If God willed, he could prevent the crops from growing, and man would be left in despair, helpless before the loss of the fruits he so eagerly expects. Next, it presents the image of the sweet water by which all life is sustained, a blessing held in the balance of God's power, descending from the clouds. Had he wished, he could have made it salty and bitter, rendering it unfit for life and sustenance. Then comes the image of the fire they kindle, and its origin in the trees, a subtle reminder of the fire of the hereafter, which they so casually doubt. Each of these examples is drawn from the tangible realities of their everyday life, intended to awaken their hearts and bring them to an awareness of God's hand in all creation, signs they can neither ignore nor deny. The surah then shifts to the subject of the Qur'an itself, this very revelation that warns them of the impending event they doubt. It swears by the positions of the stars, a profound oath, to affirm the exalted nature of this scripture. It declares, indeed this is a noble Qur'an, in a well-guarded book. None shall touch it except the purified, a revelation from the sustainer of all the worlds. Finally, the surah confronts them with the deeply moving scene of death itself. In a moment of intense poignancy, it describes the soul reaching the throat, while the onlookers, powerless and paralyzed, can do nothing but witness the passing into the unknown. When the soul reaches the throat and you are there watching, yet we are closer to it than you, though you do not see. At that moment, the soul's fate is sealed by God, its journey into the next world beginning. The soul glimpses its future path, but in that moment of transition it can neither speak of what it perceives nor gesture toward its vision. The surah concludes with a reaffirmation of the undeniable truth and the glorification of the Creator. Indeed, this is the ultimate certainty, so glorify the name of your Sustainer, the Most Great. Thus, the beginning and the end are perfectly woven together with a seamless harmony. When the inevitable event occurs, there can be no denial of its occurrence. It will abase some, and exalt others. When the earth is shaken with a violent shaking, and the mountains are crushed to dust, scattered far and wide. This opening vividly conveys the magnitude of this momentous event, employing a unique style that intensifies the awe surrounding it. Twice it begins with the conditional when the inevitable event occurs, but leaves the result unspoken. It merely states, none can deny its occurrence, it will abase and exalt. Yet it does not specify what will follow this truthful event, whose certainty is undeniable. Instead, it moves on. When the earth is shaken with a violent shaking, and the mountains are crushed to dust. Once again, the surah leaves the outcome unsaid, as though the enormity of these events is but a prelude too overwhelming to fully articulate, as if words themselves fall short of describing what will follow. This deliberate style complements the terrifying and awe-inspiring imagery it evokes. The very term, the inevitable, and the resonance of its sound, beginning with a drawn-out note, then abruptly falling into stillness, impresses upon the heart as if a massive weight has descended from on high, settling immovably, never to be displaced or undone. There can be no denial of its occurrence. The imagery of this overwhelming weight descending conjures within the mind a sense of swaying, a trembling that naturally accompanies such a cataclysm. The text echoes this expectation. It will abase and exalt. Indeed, it will lower those who once held high positions in the world and raise those who were humble in this transient life. For all earthly values and measures will be overturned, only to be realigned in accordance with the divine balance. The terror extends to the very foundations of the earth itself, that solid, stable ground upon which humanity walks and builds its life. When the earth is shaken with a violent shaking, is reduced to trembling instability. And those steadfast, towering mountains, seemingly eternal in their solidity, will be scattered like dust before the might of the inevitable event. And the mountains are crushed to dust, scattered far and wide. What terror, indeed, that can shake the earth so violently, pulverize mountains into mere particles, and leave them as scattered dust. How ignorant, then, are those who dare face this event in denial, mocking the afterlife, associating partners with God, when this is the effect it has on the earth and the mountains. Thus, the surah begins with a tremor that shakes the human soul, overwhelming the senses in its confrontation of the truth which the deniers reject and the polytheists disbelieve. The first scene of the inevitable event draws to a close, leaving us to witness its effects in the lowering and raising of mankind in their final destinies. And you shall be in three groups. The people of the right hand, what are the people of the right hand? And the people of the left hand, what are the people of the left hand? And the foremost, the foremost. Here, humanity is divided into three groups, not merely two, as is often portrayed in other parts of the Qur'an. The surah begins by mentioning the people of the right hand, but it does so in a form of rhetorical question that amplifies their significance. The people of the right hand, what are the people of the right hand? A similar approach is taken with the people of the left hand, creating an air of mystery and awe around their fate. Then the third group is introduced, and the foremost, the foremost. It is as though to say they are who they are. No further description is necessary, for their rank is self-evident, beyond the need for elaboration. The surah then continues to detail their rank before their sustainer and the bounties prepared for them, listing the blessings they will enjoy, blessings that are both comprehensible and experiential to the audience being addressed. Those nearest to God in gardens of bliss, a multitude from the former generations and a few from the latter generations reclining on couches adorned with gold, facing one another. Eternal youth shall circulate among them with goblets and pitchers, and a cup of pure drink from a flowing spring. They will not suffer headache from it, nor will they be intoxicated, and fruit of their choice and the flesh of birds as they desire. And fair maidens with large lustrous eyes like pearls well protected as a reward for what they used to do. They will hear no idle talk there, nor any sinful speech, only the greeting, peace, peace. The description of this bliss begins with the greatest and most sublime blessing, the nearness to their sustainer, those nearest to God, in gardens of bliss. The gardens of bliss pale in comparison to this closeness, for no other reward could surpass it. And so the surah pauses to reveal who the recipients of this exalted rank are. A multitude from the former generations and a few from the latter generations. They are a select group chosen from among many. Their numbers are greater among the early generations and fewer among the later ones. The scholars have differed regarding who these former and latter generations refer to. One view is that the former are those of high faith and distinction from past nations before Islam, while the latter are the early followers of Islam, known for their devotion and sacrifices. Another view, favoured by Ibn Kathir, is that both groups are from the Ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him, with the former being from its earliest period and the latter from its later generations. This interpretation is supported by reports from Al-Hasan and Ibn Sirin. Al-Hasan once recited the verse, "And the foremost, those are the ones brought near to God in gardens of bliss, a multitude from the former generations and a few from the latter generations," and said, "The foremost have already passed, but O God, make us among the people of the right hand." Similarly, Ibn Sirin remarked that people would hope or believe that they could all belong to this nation. After identifying these individuals, the surah proceeds to describe the delights of paradise that await them, blessings within their comprehension, though beyond these are even greater delights, which they will come to know when they are ready to grasp them, of which no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no human heart has conceived. They will recline on couches adorned with gold and precious stones, facing one another in perfect peace, free from all concerns and troubles. Their state is one of serene contentment, without fear of losing their bliss or worry over its end. They turn towards each other, conversing in the joy of companionship. Eternal youths shall serve them, untouched by the passage of time, unspoiled by the wear of age. They will bring them goblets, pitchers, and cups from a flowing spring, with pure wine that neither causes headache nor intoxicates. Everything here is everlasting, secure in its abundance, and fruit of their choice and the meat of birds as they desire. In this realm, nothing is forbidden, and all is tailored to the wishes of the blessed. And there will be maidens with large, beautiful eyes like pearls hidden in their shells, untouched by any gaze, unblemished by any hand, symbolizing purity, both physical and spiritual. These are rewards for what they used to do, a recompense for their deeds in the transient world. This reward brings to completion what was lacking in the fleeting joys of the worldly life. Here they will live in tranquility, elevated beyond all idle talk and contention. They will hear no vain speech nor sinful talk, but only the greeting, peace, peace. Their entire existence is enveloped in peace, peace that radiates from them, that pervades their surroundings. The angels greet them in this serene and blessed atmosphere, and they greet one another. Above all, they receive the greeting of peace from the Most Merciful Himself. Truly, their existence is one of everlasting peace. When the description of this honoured foremost group concludes, the surah turns to the next group, the companions of the right hand. And the companions of the right hand. What are the companions of the right hand? In lush lote trees without thorns, and layered banana trees and extended shade, and water poured forth abundantly, and fruit in abundance, neither interrupted nor forbidden, and couches raised high. Indeed, we have created them anew, and made them virgins, devoted and of equal age, for the companions of the right hand, a multitude from the former generations and a multitude from the latter generations. The companions of the right hand are the same as those alluded to earlier in the surah, but their blessings are now detailed. Once again, the rhetorical question, "And the companions of the right hand, what are the companions of the right hand?" is used to heighten the grandeur of their state. The pleasures for this group are tangible and sensory, with descriptions that carry a rustic simplicity suited to the imaginations of desert dwellers. They will enjoy lush lote trees without thorns, a tree known for its fruit but also for its thorns, which here are removed. They will have layered banana trees, ready for easy consumption without toil. There will be extended shade and abundant water, luxuries especially cherished in the harsh desert life. The mention of fruit in abundance, neither interrupted nor forbidden, follows, a comprehensive description that leaves nothing to be desired. And they will recline on couches raised high, simple but elevated, a nod to both physical elevation and the spiritual purity implied by height, as that which is raised is farther from the impurities of the earth. At this point, the narrative shifts to those who will accompany them. Indeed, we have created them anew and made them virgins, devoted and of equal age, referring either to the houris of paradise or to the resurrected wives of the companions, now restored to eternal youth and beauty. These companions are specifically made for the companions of the right hand, matching the elevated state of their couches, ensuring complete harmony. As for the companions of the right hand, they are numerous, a multitude from the former generations and a multitude from the latter generations. Their numbers far surpass those of the foremost, for they include many from both the earlier and the later periods, encompassing the broad expanse of time and humanity. Here the narrative brings us to the companions of the left hand, those marked by misfortune, previously alluded to at the beginning of the surah. And the companions of the left? What are the companions of the left? They are in the scorching wind and boiling water, and in the shadow of black smoke, neither cool nor comforting. For they were once among those who lived in luxury, and they persisted in great sin. And they used to say, "When we die and become dust and bones, will we indeed be resurrected, and our forefathers too? Say to them, indeed the former and the latter generations will all be gathered for an appointed day. Then you, O those who are astray and deny the truth, will eat from the tree of Zaqqum, filling your bellies with it, and drink boiling water upon it, drinking like thirsty camels. This will be their accommodation on the day of judgment. While the companions of the right dwell in cool, shaded gardens with flowing water, the companions of the left find themselves in the torment of the scorching wind and boiling water and the shadow of black smoke. Not a shadow of comfort, but one that suffocates and burns, neither cool nor gracious. The air is a blazing wind that penetrates the pores and burns the skin, and the water is searing hot, offering no relief. There is even a shadow, but it is the shadow of black smoke, a mockery of refuge, a shadow neither cool nor kind. This harshness is but a fitting recompense, for they were once indulged in luxury, and how tormenting deprivation is for the once privileged. They were relentless in their defiance of the greatest sin, idolatry, a violation of the covenant with their Creator, that natural vow inscribed in the human soul to believe in and worship only Him. They questioned, when we have died and become dust and bones, shall we really be raised again? And what of our forefathers? Thus they spoke as though the entire world they lived in had passed, as though it were but a fleeting memory, while this moment of reckoning is the true present, the true reality. For this world is but a brief flash, and what lies ahead is the eternal end. At this point, the narrative turns back to the worldly life at the perfect moment to respond to their questioning. Say to them, indeed the former and the latter generations will all be gathered for an appointed day. This is the very day that is now unfolding before them. Then the surah returns to the fate awaiting the deniers, completing the image of the punishment that awaits those who once lived in luxury. You, O those who are astray and deny the truth, will eat from the tree of Zaqqum. None knows the reality of this tree except by what God has described. Its fruit is like the heads of devils, a striking image though no one has ever seen the heads of devils. Yet it conveys a sense of dread and revulsion. Even the sound of the word Zaqqum conjures up something harsh, thorny and sharp, a far cry from the thornless lote trees and layered banana trees enjoyed by the companions of the right. And though the fruit is like the heads of devils, they will still eat of it, filling their bellies with it. Their hunger is overwhelming and their torment unrelenting. The rough, thorny fruit drives them to drink to ease their throats and fill their stomachs. But what do they drink? Boiling water, scalding hot, offering no quenching relief. They will drink as the thirsty camels afflicted with insatiable thirst, drinking and drinking, yet never satisfied. This is their hospitality on the day of recompense. The word hospitality normally suggests rest and comfort, but for the companions of the left, this is the bitter irony of their situation. This is their welcome in the very day they doubted, questioned, and refused to believe in. Just as they associated partners with God, they felt no fear of this forewarned day. Thus ends the portrayal of the fates and destinies on the day when the inevitable event occurs, the day that lowers some and raises others. With this, the first section of the surah concludes. The second section now begins, aiming to establish the foundations of faith in its entirety, though with a particular emphasis on the resurrection and the next life. Here, the Qur'an's method of addressing human nature becomes clear, as it appeals to the mind and heart with gentleness and simplicity, presenting profound truths in ways that are close and comprehensible. This Qur'an takes the familiar sights and experiences of human life and transforms them into grand cosmic themes. It unveils the divine laws governing existence, building a complete worldview and comprehensive belief system. It provides a framework for reflection and thought, a source of life for the spirit and heart, and a call to awaken one's senses and awareness to the wonders of this existence that greet people morning and evening, though they remain heedless. It calls people to awaken to the marvels within themselves and the extraordinary signs that play out in their own beings. It does not rely on rare, miraculous events or specific extraordinary occurrences, nor does it demand people seek signs and miracles far beyond their own experiences or in the distant cosmic phenomena that are beyond their reach. It does not burden them with complicated philosophies or complex intellectual problems, or with scientific experiments accessible only to a few. Instead, it guides them to a belief system and an understanding of the universe and life based on this faith, for they themselves are of God's creation, and the world around them is a manifestation of His power. The miracle is inherent in everything His hand has fashioned. This Qur'an is His revelation, drawing them to the miracles hidden within them and spread throughout the universe around them. It leads them to these familiar marvels, those which they see but do not grasp the wonder of, for their long acquaintance with them has dulled their awareness of the miraculous nature inherent in all things. The Qur'an opens their eyes to these marvels, unveiling the astounding secret within them, the secret of divine creativity, of His singular oneness, and of the eternal law that governs their own being, just as it governs the universe around them. This law carries the signs of faith and the proofs of belief, embedding them in their very existence, or more precisely, awakening them within their innate nature. And so this journey through the surah continues, unfolding signs of the Creator's boundless power as manifest in their own existence, in the crops that their hands plant, in the water they drink, and in the fire they kindle, common everyday sights that fall under their gaze. Yet even in these most familiar things, the Qur'an paints for them the ultimate moment, the end of life on this earth and the beginning of life in the hereafter. That moment which no soul can escape, where all human schemes fail, and where the living stand face to face with the absolute power, in a final encounter where there is no room for evasion and no further excuse. It is the moment when all masks fall and all pretexts dissolve. The way the Qur'an speaks to the human soul testifies in itself to its divine origin, the same origin as the universe. For the structure of the Qur'an mirrors the structure of the cosmos. From the simplest elements are born the most complex forms, the most magnificent creations. The atom, once thought to be the building block of the universe, and the cell, believed to be the foundation of life, each is a miracle in itself, despite its minuscule size. And here, in the Qur'an, the simplest, most commonplace observations of life become the foundation for the grandest religious truth and the most expansive cosmic vision. Birth, growth, water, fire, and death. Who among humanity has not experienced these things? What cave dweller has not witnessed the emergence of life in the womb, the sprouting of a plant, the fall of water, the lighting of a fire, or the moment of death? From these universal everyday sights, the Quran builds faith, for it speaks to all people in every environment. These simple, unadorned scenes are themselves the greatest cosmic realities and the profoundest divine mysteries. Along with the mention of the setting of the stars, these truths, in their simplicity, address the innate human nature. Yet in their essence, they remain subjects for study by the greatest scientists until the end of time. The setting of the stars, the architecture of the cosmos, the origin of human life, a secret of all secrets, the origin of plant life, a miracle akin to the miracle of animal life, water, the source of life, fire, the wonder that forged human civilization. This approach to life's most fundamental elements and the way it builds faith and understanding, this is not the way of men. When humans delve into such subjects, they rarely turn to these primary elements, which are themselves cosmic building blocks. Even when they do not treat them with such ease and simplicity. Instead, they entangle the matter in complex, abstract philosophical frameworks, intelligible only to a select few. But God's way is different. His way is to take these very primary elements, which are the fabric of the cosmos, and through them build faith with ease and clarity, just as he takes the raw materials of the universe and from them creates the cosmos. This is akin to that. And the mark of the Creator is one, clear both here and there. We created you, so why do you not believe? Have you considered what you emit? Is it you who create it, or are we the Creator? We have decreed death among you, and we are not to be outdone in replacing you with others like you and creating you in forms unknown to you. You have already known the first creation, so why do you not reflect? This matter concerns the beginning and the end, the matter of creation and death. It is something visible, familiar, and real in the life of every person. So how do they not believe that God created them? The weight of this truth upon the soul is heavier and greater than the human spirit can resist or dispute. We created you, so why do you not believe? Have you considered what you emit? Is it you who create it, or are we the Creator? The role of humans in the creation of life is limited to the man depositing what he emits into the womb of a woman. Then their work ceases. From that moment, the hand of the divine takes over, working alone on that humble substance, crafting it, nurturing it, shaping its form and breathing life into it. From the very first instant and at every moment that follows, the miracle unfolds, an extraordinary event that only God can accomplish, whose nature and essence remain a mystery to human beings. They know not how it happens, let alone how to participate in it. This level of reflection is accessible to every human being, and it is enough to appreciate the wonder and be moved by it. But the story of that single cell, from the moment it is emitted until it becomes a fully formed creation, is more fantastic than any fiction, an account the mind could never believe if it did not witness it unfolding time and again before the eyes of all humanity. This single cell begins to divide and multiply, and after a time it becomes millions upon millions of cells. Each cluster of these new cells possesses characteristics distinct from the others, for each is assigned to create a specific part of the human being. Some become bone cells, others muscle cells, skin cells, or nerve cells. Then there are those tasked with forming the eye, while others form the tongue, the ear, and even the glands, each more specialized than the last. And every group knows exactly where its work lies. The eye cells, for instance, do not mistakenly form in the belly or the foot, yet if taken artificially and implanted in the belly, they would indeed produce an eye there. But by divine guidance they do not err, nor do ear cells travel to the foot to create an ear. All these cells labor together, under the watchful eye of the Creator, fashioning the human being in the best of forms, with no human hand involved in this wondrous process. This is the beginning. As for the end, it is no less miraculous, no less strange, though just as familiar to human observation. We have decreed death among you, and we are not to be outdone. This death that comes to every living being, what is it? How does it come to pass? And what is the irresistible force it wields? It is the decree of God. Thus, no one can escape it, and none can outrun it. Death is but a link in the chain of creation, which must be completed, that we may replace you with others like you. To inhabit the earth and succeed you after your passing, the same God who decreed death also decreed life, ordaining death so that he might bring forth others in the place of those who die, until the appointed term for this worldly life comes to an end. And when that term is reached, there shall be the next creation, and recreate you in what you do not know, in that unseen, unknown world which humans can only know through what God reveals to them. It is then that the second creation will reach its full completion, and the journey of humanity will arrive at its destined end. This is the second creation. And you already know the first creation, so why do you not reflect? It is close, so very close, with nothing unfamiliar about it. With such simplicity and ease, the Qur'an recounts the story of the first creation and the second. And with the same simplicity and ease, it stands before human nature, confronting it with a logic it knows and cannot argue against, because it springs from the very instincts and observations of humanity itself, free of complication, abstraction or philosophy that tires the mind and fails to reach the heart. This is the way of God, the creator of the universe, the maker of man, and the revealer of the Qur'an. Once more, with the same simplicity and grace, the Qur'an draws their hearts to something well known to them, often repeated in their experiences, to show them the hand of God at work, to reveal the miracle that takes place before their very eyes, though they remain heedless of it. Have you considered what you sow? Is it you who cause it to grow, or are we the ones who grow it? If we willed, we could turn it into dry debris, and you would be left to wonder, we are ruined, in fact we are utterly deprived. This crop, which springs forth before their eyes, grows and bears fruit. What part do they play in it? They plough the earth and scatter the seeds, seeds which God himself has fashioned. Their role ends there, and the hand of divine power takes over, performing the wondrous, extraordinary work. The seed or grain begins its journey to recreate its kind, setting forth with the wisdom of one who knows the way. It never errs, as humans often do in their work, nor does it stray from its path or miss its intended target. The hand of divine power guides its every step along the wondrous journey, a journey so astounding that neither intellect nor imagination could believe it, were it not happening, witnessed by every human being in one form or another. Otherwise, what mind could fathom, what imagination could conceive that a single grain of wheat contains within it a stalk, leaves, an ear of grain, and so much fruit? Or that a date pit holds within it a towering palm tree with all that it contains? What mind could have dared to imagine such a marvel, had it not seen it unfold before its very eyes morning and evening? And had this story not repeated itself in full view of all people? What human being can claim to have had any part in this wonder, save for the act of ploughing and casting the seeds that God himself created? And yet people say, we planted, while their role did not go beyond ploughing and scattering seeds. As for the marvellous story represented by every grain and every seed, as for the miracle that springs forth from within and grows and rises, every bit of it is the work of the Creator, the true sower. If he so willed, the journey would never begin. If he so willed, the story would not unfold. If he so willed, he would reduce it to rubble before it could bear fruit. And it is only by his will that it journeys from beginning to end. And if such a thing were to happen, people would fill the air with lamentations, saying, we are ruined, utterly deprived. But the grace of God grants them the fruit, allowing the plant to complete its cycle, to finish its wondrous journey, the same journey undergone by the tiny cell that is first conceived, a reflection of the life the divine power creates and sustains. What then is strange about the next creation when we witness this first creation? Have you seen the water you drink? Is it you who cause it to descend from the clouds, or are we the ones who send it down? If we willed, we could have made it bitter, so why do you not give thanks? This water, the essence of life, the element without which life cannot arise as God has decreed, What role does man have in it? His role is merely to drink it. As for the one who created it from its elements, the one who caused it to descend from the clouds, it is God, the Exalted, and he is the one who decreed that it be sweet and fresh. If we willed, we could have made it bitter, salty and undrinkable, unable to sustain life. So why do they not give thanks for God's favour, which has granted them what is? Those first addressed by this Qur'an knew the water that fell from the clouds, in its direct and simple form, as the substance of their lives, the cause of their celebrations, and the source of awe and inspiration immortalized in their poems and songs. And even as humanity has advanced in civilization, the value of water has not diminished. In fact, it has only increased. Those who study science and seek to understand the origins of water are even more deeply aware of the magnitude of this event than anyone else. Thus, water is a matter of concern both for the desert dweller and the scientist alike. Have you seen the fire you kindle? Is it you who bring into being its tree, or are we the ones who create it? We have made it a reminder and a provision for the wayfarers. The discovery of fire was a monumental event in human history, perhaps the greatest event from which human civilization began. Yet fire has since become so commonplace that it no longer stirs wonder. Humans kindle fire, but who created the fuel that sustains it? Who created the trees from which the firewood is derived? We have already mentioned the story of cultivation, and trees are born from this very cultivation. But here there is another subtle point in mentioning its tree. The Arabs kindled their fires by rubbing one tree branch against another, following the ancient method still used in primitive societies today. This was a reality deeply familiar to them. As for the mystery of fire and its secret in the eyes of scientists, it is a field of ongoing research and study. And with the mention of fire, the Quran subtly alludes to the fire of the hereafter. We have made it a reminder to recall that other fire and a provision for the wayfarers, meaning the travellers in this world. This allusion had a profound impact on the souls of those first addressed, for it resonated deeply with their lived experience and reality. At this point, having presented such evident truths and profound mysteries, all bearing the clear signs of faith, and having simplified these concepts for the heart and mind, the Quran now directs our attention to the ultimate truth that these realities point to, the truth of God's existence, his grandeur and his sustainership. This truth confronts human nature with irresistible force and authority. Thus the messenger, peace be upon him, is urged to proclaim this truth and honour it, touching hearts with its weight and majesty. So glorify the name of your sustainer, the most great. Then, once again, the Quran turns to those who deny its message, linking it to the vast universe through a magnificent oath from the sustainer of all worlds. But no, I swear by the positions of the stars, and truly this is a mighty oath, if only you knew, that this is indeed a noble Quran, in a well-guarded book, which none touch except the purified, a revelation from the sustainer of all worlds. At that time, the listeners understood little about the positions of the stars, perceiving them with their naked eyes. Thus, it was said to them, and truly, this is a mighty oath, if only you knew. As for us today, we comprehend far more of the greatness inherent in this oath, tied to the object of its swearing, though even now we only know a fraction of the majesty of the stars' positions. The small portion we have reached with our limited telescopes tells us that a single group of stars, among the countless groups in the vast expanse of space which we cannot fathom, contains 1 billion stars. And astronomers tell us that among the billions of stars and planets, some are visible to the naked eye, while others can only be seen through telescopes and instruments, and some can only be detected by instruments without being seen at all. All of these celestial bodies move in the mysterious orbits of space, where there is almost no chance that the magnetic field of one star could approach or collide with another. As unlikely as two ships crossing the vast Mediterranean and the Pacific Ocean would collide while sailing in the same direction at the same speed. It is a remote possibility, almost impossible. And each star, in its distant position from its counterparts, has been placed with wisdom and precision. It is coordinated in its effects and influences with all the other stars and planets, balancing the entire universe in this immense, unbounded space. Who could have ever imagined the sheer wonder of the stars' dwelling places, if not for what they behold each night and day? Yet even now this mystery is but a fragment of the boundless grandeur of the cosmos, far surpassing what those who first heard the Qur'an could have ever conceived, and still infinitely smaller than the true reality of it all. I swear by the positions of the stars. Yet is there any need for an oath? The truth is clear enough without it. And what a mighty oath it is, if only you knew. But such is the majesty of this oath, offered and then set aside, that its very articulation leaves an indelible mark. For indeed this is a noble Qur'an, preserved in a hidden book, untouched by any save the pure, a revelation from the sustainer of all worlds. This Qur'an is noble, not the fabrication of a sorcerer, nor the raving of a madman, nor a tale drawn from the myths of old. It is not whispered by devils as they falsely claim, no. This is a noble scripture, noble in its source, noble in its essence, noble in its guidance, in a hidden book, a scripture protected, and further explained by, none shall touch it but the pure. The disbelievers allege that it was demons who brought this revelation. Yet how could such unclean forces ever access this sacred book, concealed within the divine knowledge and safeguarded by purity? Only the angels, pure of essence, descend with it, and this clarifies the meaning of none shall touch it but the purified. No here negates their claim, for on this earth the scripture may indeed be touched by both the pure and the impure, by believers and disbelievers alike, so the negation must refer to the celestial realm, rejecting the notion of any impure influence. What follows confirms this. A revelation from the sustainer of all worlds, not from demons, but from the creator of the heavens and the earth. Then we come to the final moment of this surah, a moment that stills the heart and stops all argument, the moment of death, when the living stand at the threshold between the end of one journey and the beginning of another, powerless to return or delay. So, is it this discourse that you take lightly, and make your sustenance that you deny it? In those moments when the soul reaches the throat and you stand helplessly looking on, we are nearer to it than you, but you do not see. So, if you're not bound for judgment, why do you not return the soul to the body, if you are truthful? Are you still in doubt about this truth, this message that speaks to you of resurrection? Do you still deny the Qur'an, mocking its descriptions of the hereafter, dismissing its teachings? Is your gain in life to simply reject and deny? Is that what you have stored up for the world to come? A miserable store indeed? And what will you do when the soul has reached the throat, when you stand at the crossroads of the unknown? The Qur'an paints this scene vividly, with strokes so swift and precise that the entire scene materializes before our very eyes. When the soul reaches the throat, and you are then looking on. We can almost hear the faint rattle in the throat, see the features stiffening, feel the weight of anguish through the words when the soul reaches the throat, and we can sense the helplessness and stunned despair of those who stand by, watching from the phrase, and you are then looking on. Here, in this moment, the soul has severed its ties with this world, leaving behind the earth and all it contained. It gazes now upon an existence unfamiliar, a realm it cannot control, dependent only on what it has sent forth in deeds, whether good or ill. Here the soul perceives, yet remains silent, unable to communicate what it sees. It has departed from those around it and the world it knew. What remains visible to those present is but the lifeless body. Yet they see without truly understanding. They watch without the ability to alter the course of events. At this point, human power ceases. Human knowledge is rendered mute, human efforts come to an end. Here they know, and they no longer argue, that they are utterly helpless, powerless beyond measure. Here the curtain falls on sight, on understanding, on action. Here divine power alone reigns supreme, divine knowledge alone prevails. All matters are now solely in the hands of God, without doubt, without question, without argument, without escape. We are nearer to it than you, but you do not see. The scene is now enveloped in the majesty of God's presence. Though he is always near, this expression stirs the awareness of his overwhelming reality, often forgotten by human hearts. At the moment of death, the presence of the divine overshadows everything, heightening the awe, the fear, the finality. And then comes the challenge that silences all claims, ends all dispute. If you are not bound for judgment, then return the soul if you are truthful. If, as you say, there is no reckoning, no reward and no punishment, if you are free and unaccountable, then why do you not call back the soul when it reaches the throat? You stand there watching as it departs for its final accounting, and you remain motionless, powerless. At this, all excuses fall away. All arguments cease, all pretenses vanish. The weight of this truth bears down on the human spirit, and there is no standing against it, except in denial that has neither reason nor proof. And then the narrative proceeds, unfolding the destiny of the soul, a destiny glimpsed from afar when it reaches the throat, turning its back on the fleeting life of this world and stepping forward to the eternal life to come. It moves towards the judgment that the deniers had rejected. So, if the soul is among the nearest to God, then it shall find peace, a fragrant breeze, and the bliss of a garden of delight. But if it is among the people of the right hand, then a greeting of peace will be conveyed. Peace be upon you from the people of the right. Yet if it belongs to the deniers, those led astray, its fate will be a scorching welcome of boiling water and a searing blaze. Earlier in this surah, we have seen glimpses of the bliss awaiting those closest to God. Now, as the soul approaches the end, it beholds the signs of this joy awaiting it. Peace, a fragrant breeze, and the garden of bliss. These very words are soaked with gentleness and tenderness, casting a shadow of sweet repose, soft comfort, and the company of divine grace. But if the soul is among the people of the right, it is addressed directly, receiving a greeting from its companions. Peace be upon you from the people of the right. How cool and beloved is this greeting at such a moment, when the soul has reached the throat, calming its fears and offering solace in the company of the righteous that awaits it. Yet if the soul is among the deniers, those who have strayed, its hospitality will be that of boiling water and the engulfing flames of hell. What a wretched dwelling, that scalding water, and what agonizing torment, that inferno, now vividly visible, and the soul knows with certainty that it is about to meet its fate. Now, with the scene reaching its peak, the surah draws to its solemn conclusion in a deeply resonant cadence. Indeed, this is the truth of certainty. So glorify the name of your sustainer, the Most Great. Here the weight of absolute certainty settles, harmonizing with the gravity of the scene that began the surah, and it closes with an unmistakable call, a certainty that leads naturally to the glorification and magnification of God, the ultimate truth,